Good morning, everyone. Thanks again for the opportunity for us to present the results of the most recent legislative study. A quick overview of this study, or the purpose of the study. First off, it was directed by the 2019 legislative session. And the outcomes for this statewide county, township, and tribal road study is being used for the distribution of House Bill 1066, also known as Operation Prairie Dog, for county funding, primarily in the eastern part of the state. And this is really our fifth go-around in studying the county and local needs statewide. First one was back in 2010, and that study, I must point out, since we're at a WDEA meeting, was funded by the oil and gas producing counties, formerly now WDEA, and that was the spearheaded initially then, and that was that first study. We looked at the additional needs due to oil development above and beyond whatever normal local needs were, and we updated this in 2012 and 2014 at the direction of the legislature, and we just have a couple of bullets underneath that the assumptions for each study are changing. Initially went from 21.5 new wells all the way up to 60,000. And then the last study prior to this one was done in 2016. And going into that study, there was a lot of uncertainty in terms of where the production levels were going to be. So we did three different scenarios at that point: 30, 60, and 90 rigs, with 60 being the most likely. And that one ended up to be the most likely was the actual outcome from that study. The current study, there wasn't a study in 2018. The legislature did not request a study at that point. So there's a 4-year gap. So there was a lot of data collection that went into updating this study because, road conditions, traffic counts, and also a lot of the modeling assumptions were 4 years old at that point. And it also was the first study where it was known that the funding distribution was partially tied to the results of the study itself. Leanna talked a little bit about, or quite a bit about, equivalent single axle loads, and that is one of the basis of the analysis on the county system. It all depends upon traffic. That's one of the major things that we modeled in this study. So depending upon the level of traffic, in particular truck traffic, you have different impacts. The higher the truck traffic is, or the higher the overall traffic is. On the unpaved system, you have to blade more often, more frequent and thicker gravel overlays to maintain road condition. And then in certain cases, use of dust suppression and base stabilization to preserve the gravel that's there, and also mitigate the impacts to farmsteads or cities nearby to where the gravel roads experience high levels of traffic. And the paved side, Leanna explained that very well. The design of the pavement is based upon equivalent single axle loads. Higher truck volume, higher easels, and when they design a pavement for higher easel levels, the pavement is thicker, typically, to handle the 20-year life of the estimated easels. And then also in the secondary model, all the traffic forecasts play into both a gravel model as well as a paved model, which Tim will talk about in a little bit. So then the increased equivalent single axle loads will result in increased pavement deterioration, or more free pavement deterioration occurs quicker. So to forecast the traffic, we developed a travel demand model, and this is using agricultural and oil related data to forecast truck traffic over the next 20 years. And 20 years is selected because that's the typical design life of the pavement. And then the model estimated traffic in the base year and then forecasted it off in the future. And we calibrated it using observed traffic counts. So between the North Dakota Department of Transportation and UGPTI staff, we collected a lot of traffic counts. I'll show that in a slide or two here. So the individual modeling groups, I've mentioned ag and oil data. So for ag, we modeled 10 individual commodities, and we have fantastic data through the North Dakota Department of Agriculture, which shows the outbound movements from elevators across the state. All licensed elevators are required to report this to the Department of Agriculture. So we have where the crops are going, and then also through the Ag Statistics Service, there's really good information in terms of where the crops are actually grown using satellite imagery. On the oil side, we had 9 individual submodels, and each of these have and for each of the submodels, they're arranged so when you have a different set of origins, so on the ag side, it's the field, the destination is the elevator. For the oil side, we have the individual drilling pad as an origin for example, outbound oil, and then we have destinations at gathering rail terminals or pipeline gathering heads and so forth. So for every OD pair, we had a different submodel. I referred to the traffic counts earlier. These are all the counts that were used in the model. And the ones that are shown here are only on county and local systems. And so the blue represent volume count. So this is the total traffic combined truck and passenger vehicle volumes. And then the red ones are more important for us in this study because the main thing we're forecasting is truck traffic often in the future. So the truck classification will split the traffic into how many passenger cars, how many combination trucks, and how many single unit trucks. And then once we have the traffic forecasts, then we begin to work on the analysis of needs. The first one is the unpaved road analysis. So this is when we get into gravel or in many cases unsurfaced roads in many cases. So we assign maintenance costs based upon different traffic level forecasts. Again, as I referred to before, as traffic increases, the maintenance practices, generally the frequency of blading, the frequency of overlays, and the thickness of overlays increase as well. So in order to assign these maintenance costs, we send out a survey of costs and practices to counties and townships across the state. And then we group the miles of road in each county by the traffic levels, and using their costs and practices, we apply an annualized cost to each traffic level and sum up the mileages across each jurisdiction. So for an individual county, we'll sum up the amount of miles in each of those traffic categories, apply an annualized cost to that, and then we have the total cost for that jurisdiction. Mentioned the gravel survey. We mailed it to all 53 counties and to all the organized townships across the state. And the map on the right-hand side of the slide here, the green represent the organized townships, the gray represent the unorganized townships. And for the counties, we got every single survey that we sent out back. So excellent response rate. And on the townships, excellent response rate as well. 75% of the surveys came back as well. And again, they were based upon the costs and practices. And one thing why we do apply different costs at different county levels is there's a lot of variation from county to county. One of the largest ones of variation is the availability of quality aggregate to be able to put on the roads. And this slide is the aggregate cost per cubic yard, and this is mapped just to show variations. So the county's costs are the practices that they apply, how frequently they apply overlay to their gravel roads. One of the factors that figures into this is how much the aggregate costs. And we can see some regional variations out in the oil patch, McKenzie, Williams divide are higher costs. Trail County on the eastern side of there is an outlier. They reported, they received their bids for gravel. That includes the cost per yard, including the trucking costs. So that is high, but that includes both the aggregate and the trucking cost. So one of the questions we always have when we have the results of the study is to look at variations from county to county and region to region. So we may have one county out west that has similar mileage to a county out east, and the cost may be much higher due to traffic, but also to cost component reasons. So this is the cost per yard. And then also we asked them about the trucking cost, but also the trucking distance, the average trucking distance. And this also helps us to reflect the availability of gravel. So if we have an average cost of, say, $6 per cubic yard for gravel, but they don't have much gravel in their county, so they're shipping in from another county. Well, you may be able to add $8 to $10 in shipping costs or freight costs to get the gravel onto the roads in their counties. So the actual placed cost per yard of gravel includes the trucking distance. And we can see some variations from different parts of the state. And again, Trail County is really low because they don't have much gravel in Trail County, but it is combined as well. Then the last set of questions regarding the gravel we asked is involved specifying and testing of gravel. And both of those practices ensure that we're getting quality material. And washboarding, rutting, dust, and loose rock and sand are all gravel quality issues. And based upon the quality of gravel, they will affect safety risks and maintenance costs. And LTAP staff, will hear a little bit more from them this morning as well. Talk a lot about this in their educational outreach to the counties and the locals. And so on the right-hand side, we have the gravel specifications. The counties that reply that they do specify their gravel are in blue. And then on the lower right section of the slide are the counties that test their gravel. So it also ensures that they're getting quality material. So that wraps up the gravel section, and I'll hand it over at this point to Tim Horner to go through the paved analysis.
Okay. Okay, Alan, do you see my screen? Not if you do. Okay, good. We're on the paved analysis. So I do want to back up one screen. I know that we did have, okay, there. On the gravel testing, we got a comment, I think a week or so ago, that Ramsey County does spec theirs. So we didn't update that slide, but in case Ramsey County's listening, we were listening. So just so you catch wind of that. Okay, so we're on the paved data analysis, and let's see, we got about 10-15 minutes to get through this, so I'll kind of move a little quickly. You know, everything has data collection, and everything starts with traffic. And I always point out that when I was a designer, whether it was bridges or pavement, the first thing we did was call the people and ask what the traffic estimates were, so you could design something. And this is really no different in pavement and bridges as well as it is in gravel. But so we have to do data collection then for the pavement material after we have the traffic, and that's on the pavement surface ride, and that's on the also on the thicknesses of the pavement. Pavement is like a wire. When you bend it, if you bend it too much, too often, it breaks. A stiffer, thicker wire will do a little longer, and so that's basically why you have to have the pavement thickness. And then we ran it through an actual pavement analysis routine. Basically, it's just a reverse of the design. You design for 20 years, so you say how thick a pavement do you need to go 20 years, and if it has a certain condition, you back calculate how many years it has left, so you know when you have to do it. And I'll talk about that in a bit. So data collection is kind of an interesting topic. We used to use the North Dakota DOT Pathways van, but they were in the process of replacing theirs at the time. So luckily, luckily the technology in smartphones has improved quite a bit. So there we had the 3 smartphone application for photo logging, and 3 for ride, so that we could average the ride scores. And then you could verify the overall pavement score with the visual to get a pavement score, a 0 to 5 score, which is typically what's used for design as well. 0 to 5, and 2.0 to 2.5 scores poor, and 5 is new. So anyway, so those are smartphone applications. They drove 5,300 miles of ride, and image data collection is shows up on Grit. And then based on the surveys, if you see red out here, those are kind of poor pavement, poor ride and distress. And then yellow is marginal, fair, and then green is newer, good, maybe recently seal coated. And then Grit, which most of you know, is the GIS-based roadway history and existing condition type file that we have built several years ago through legislative direction. What we're looking for, again, is the pavement thickness and the type, the base thickness and type, the subgrade strength, and the pavement age. Again, that pavement thickness and the subgrade mixed with it for thickness determines how well it can handle the traffic loads that Alan's traffic analysis puts on. We also need to know shoulder type, because we have to know if the road's wide enough to put an overlay on. If it's not, we have to add some costing for the widening, and dirt work is expensive, and it's a significant addition if it's necessary. So the design inputs, again, the PSR, the present serviceability rating, again, that was that 0 to 5 score I mentioned, and we give that pavement a 0 to 5 score, and then we know where it is within its life, take into account the cumulative easels, and then we also look at the structural number, which is the combined layer strength of the pavement and the gravel base thickness if it exists, and then that's the stiffness. And then subgrade strength is also a stiffness component. And then we determine how well the existing pavement and the current condition it is, and how well it will handle the projected loads. And then we project what the remaining life is on that pavement, and basically what year it should have an overlay, or if it's due for reconstruction. Then the shoulder width is that input. Then, just Alan mentioned equivalent single axle loads. So there are areas of the state that have significant single axle loads, and that's the red zones. That's where we have over 1 million projected equivalent single axle loads over a 20-year period, which is a fairly heavy truck loading factor for county roads. And you can see there in northwest North Dakota and the oil area, and then some around Dickinson, definitely on the eastern area of the state as well. The other areas are paved, but they probably don't have as significant of pavement loads, although there are some areas where they are. Paved data analysis. Again, we look at types of improvements. We look at whether or not the pavement will handle a bituminous overlay, and that varies based on what we project is necessary for the traffic loads. And it can be, for instance, a 2-inch overlay might be 200,000. A 6-inch overlay might be 550 to 600,000. If you have to do reconstruction, it's 1.4 million per mile. Mine and blend is kind of a compromise between a reconstruction and an overlay, and that's about 678,000. That's what we use for a factor. And if you have to widen it, it's about 87,000 per foot of widening. And if we had to do a concrete pavement repair, and there are some concrete roads in the state, especially up in north central North Dakota, then that's about 450,000 per mile. So the 20-year projections that we came up with look like this. Black is the overlays, and red is reconstructions, and yellow is kind of an orange or a little bit of sliver widening and mine and blending and that type of thing. So all pavements in the state basically get some type of treatment in a 20-year period. Now the bridge analysis. Just to cover this, we use a 2019 bridge inventory. You have to survey the condition of bridges every 2 years. Those are bridges over 20 feet in length. We extract the existing box culverts unless we spot that one is in very poor condition. And then we extract minimum maintenance roads, and that's about 175 bridges. And then we extracted known improvements for 2019 and 20, so we wouldn't project that they were necessary if they were already just recently completed and happened after the 2018 and 19 surveys. Excuse me. And this is the condition of bridges across the state at the local level. Red is not good, of course, that's a poor condition. And then of course there's yellows that probably, we look at other factors to see if they may need replacement. And then the greens are generally pretty good bridges, but there's a lot of red and yellow out there. In a nutshell, we're looking at the deck, the superstructure, the substructure scores. There's 0 to 9 scores. If they're 4 or less, that's an alert that it probably needs to have an improvement or replacement. We look at on-system bridges if they have less than an HS20 loading capability, or if they're structurally deficient. Widths of less than 20 feet off system, we would identify as needing improvement. And low sufficiency rating with an unknown foundation, although sufficiency rating is sort of disappearing from federal highways arsenal on bridges. But we did take a look at it for this study yet. Unit costs, we'll jump down to the bottom area. Basically, they've increased since the last study. We look at bridges, bridge replacements at about $295 per square foot, and that includes the approach road or overburden on a box culvert. Box culvert's $450 for a single barrel and $750,000 for a multiple, and that includes the roadway work that goes along with the bridges, approach roadway or roadway over the top of them. Rehabs, we figured 50% of replacement costs. If it's deck replacement, just 45%. And then preventive maintenance is something that, is evolving. It's preventive maintenance is big in pavement. Bridges are getting to be an emphasis area for this as well. And we figured 25 cents per square foot for deck washing and crack sealing joint maintenance. And then if it was a little higher, if it was within 5 miles of a city, over 5,000, where there might be salt dropping on the bridge. This is the summary and of what we have. So unpaved is always the big, and we don't always think that that gravel is the significant part of the cost, but it is. It's almost 2/3 of the cost of the total infrastructure for local roads. Unpaved is $6 billion over a 20-year period, 6.1. That's an increase of maybe 1%, which is the smallest increase we had since the last study. Paved was $2.668 billion dollars over the 20-year period. That was an increase of about 18%. So pavement costs have gone up. There's been more pavement created, and pavement unit prices are up. Bridges are $498 million dollars for a 20-year period. And even though the number of bridges has reduced a little bit since 4 years ago, it still was an increase of about 11% because of the changes in unit prices for bridges. The cost of bridge replacement, box culvert replacement, those went up significantly. I don't want to say significantly, but they went up enough so that this number changed 11%. And then where we have 9.3 billion for a 20-year period for the total, that compares to 8.8 billion from the period before. So overall, the needs increased 6% over our last study, which seemed logical to us, and because based on unit pricing. Unpaved gravel unit prices were a little more towards what they had been 4 years ago, or they dropped in some and went up in others. In our study, we provide this type of overview for every county so that they can see how they compare to other counties. And you can see that the eastern border of the state has higher traffic and more roads. And then the northwest, the oil counties have significant loads as well. And it's a pie chart. Some counties have no bridges, so you won't see the bridge cost for this yellow. And but you can visually see how one county compares to another. I want to point out that each county has a tabular output for gravel, for pavement, and for bridges within our report, and we are looking for comments on that. That is posted on our website. The first page of our website, if you go to the upper right-hand corner, is our assessment of North Dakota County and local road site, and you can click on this item here to view the report and look at individual counties. And then if there's comments on it, we ask that you click on that, and several of us will get an email. And again, that button activates this email address that you see for NDSU road needs at ndsu.edu. And either I or Dale, Brad, or Alan Dybing, Brad Wentz or Alan Dybing will take care of that. And Brad Wentz handled the pavement, so he's the expert on that. Alan's the gravel and traffic, and Dale and I can bounce around on the bridge items or the overall report. This is the tougher part. Our comment period is ending October 12th. We gave 2.5 months to comment. The report was posted around July 21 when we made the presentation in July at a statewide webinar. So that's I think that's about it as far as we are. I think we're just about on time on this. Yeah, we're spot on. So, but we are available to answer questions if you have any questions for us.
Here to be any questions, so thanks, Tim and Alan.
Can do. Yeah, appreciate the opportunity to present again.